Doing a video on my 2006 Suzuki Eiger 4x4 400. I am replacing the rear bearings on the rear end. This is off of that one actually. The one that's on there came off of my other bike that I'm working on. Came off on me last week on the trail. Came out. I bought the all balls rear bearings and seal kit. This is where I'm at so far. I used a 30 millimeter to get the castle nut off, a pair of strippers for the I lost my train of thought, cotter pins, and then I used a 8 millimeter to take off these bolts here around the brake cover. There is little slots in here, little slots every couple of spots. You can actually get a screwdriver in there and help you wedge that out of there. As you can see, it is filthy in there. I don't think, no, yeah, that side's bad too. Yeah, that's not good. This is where I'm at so far. I'm having hell getting that one off, but I will continue with my videos. Okay, I have the differential one side taken apart. There was a lot of mud and trash in there. I got to get all of that out. I caught hell trying to get this hub off of the spline. Not here on the spline itself, but getting the castle nut off. I had to use a 1/2 inch ratchet with my jack bar, using it as a cheater pipe. I used a pipe wrench to bite onto it to hold it in place, and that caught hell. But I finally got it to break loose. I couldn't get it off with the impact. Everything looks good. The bearings actually slid right off. Well, the inner race, whatever's left of the bearing, so the inner race is what's left, slid right off. So I'm gonna take all this, clean it all up really good. To get these 4 bolts off for your shaft housing, there was 4 bolts. They were 14 millimeter. 2 were longer. Those 2 hold on this bracket here if you do have it. If not, then you won't have that. But you'll still have the 4 main bolts. They do have Loctite, so they're a little tight. And then 1 10 millimeter here that holds on this plastic in place, and that just holds on to the housing itself. There's a spot where the bolt goes in right there. I guess that's it for now until I clean everything up. So I have the differential taken apart. I have each axle and each axle tube. I'm not going to pull this brake assembly off. I'm going to leave it just how it is. I don't use my rear brakes because of the really poor design that Suzuki did on this. It doesn't seal worth the crap. So I can adjust the brakes, get them on nice and working, and the first time I go through a little mud and water, they just cut out on me. So I'm not even going to worry about it. I'm going to have to stop for right now. I was able to get the shafts out and the inner races off, but the outer races actually stayed in there. I got the seals out. That was the first part, but the inner race part of the bearing stayed in there. I don't have the tools to take it out, so I'm gonna have to go to work and get a bearing puller and put it in there, and it's just a jaw, and you tighten it up and it opens, and the forks, instead of them being like this, they're opposite, so they'll grab on the inside of that bearing, on that lip, and I can slide them out with a slide hammer and get them right on out. The rear end, let's see, there was something I was gonna say. I'm probably sandblast some of this stuff, clean it all up, be real careful with the splines, be real careful. You don't want to mess those up. that cover, the plastic cover, 2 10mm bolts on each side, one in the center. I don't remember what size that was. I can't remember off the top of my head. What size was that? 6mm Allen to get that one off. That stayed stuck on my wrench. Deal with it later. I think that was it. I tried getting them out, and on this side they were still intact, but and before you get this out, on each one on the outside there is a retaining ring, snap ring. So you have this holding, once you pull your seal out, first you have a seal here on the outer seal, then you have a snap ring, a bearing, another bearing, and then another seal. So it'll look actually like this. This is the all balls kit. This is for one side. It has 2 seals and 2 bearings. And there is a certain way that these seals, I'm not sure. I gotta do some more info on it, but they look like the same number. If they are the same number, it doesn't matter which way you put them in. If they are different numbers, I will find out and I will post it, figure out which one goes first. But you need a pair of snap ring pliers to get the snap ring out. If not, you will damage it, and then you will need to buy another one. I am going to go ahead and replace it because mine had a lot of rust. It looks like this thing had been underwater for a while and damaged, and it's in really bad condition. Hopefully yours doesn't look like this. This one snap ring stayed stuck on me, so it bent. I could probably bend it back and reuse it, but I have new ones at work. I'll just replace them. What else? Yeah, my shafts, I'm gonna clean those up. Make sure you don't mess up your spline or where your bearing sits. Your bearing rides, you don't want to mess none of that up. I think that's it. I'll let you know as soon as I get the bearings on there. Okay, I was able to get the bearings out finally from the inside. I had 2 bearings and a seal on the very outside. Also, you have a snap ring. So as soon as you pull off your seal, which will look like that if it's not as bad as mine was, then you have your snap ring, a bearing, and another bearing, which mine are completely gone, so I only have the outer races, and that's what was stuck in here. Now I couldn't get mine out, so what I had to use was a slide hammer puller. And these have fingers and they adjust with this piece here, so they open up inside of there and they bite inside of the little grooves. There's some grooves in there. And yeah, I was able to bite in there and actually pull it out. So I got it out, and I noticed I have a little bit of damage. There's a lip right here, but that's where this gets welded. So it was like a stopping point for this to go down, for them to weld it. It shouldn't affect me. My bearing should sit flat. It's not damaged. I was able to grind it down a little bit and make sure my surface area was completely smooth. I have a little chip right there, but it'll be all right. The way that I got it in, what I did was, with my kit, was I took one bearing, got it in place, tapped it down with a rubber hammer, so I got it about flush, and went in pretty smooth. And then I went ahead and did the same thing with the second one, right on top of it, tapped it down a little bit, and then I took a socket, 1.5 inches is what I have here. I'm not too sure what it measures out here, but it fits perfectly around the outer side, or the bearing, the outer side. You don't want to beat it here. You don't want to put no pressure here. You want to do it on the outer side. So this socket fit perfectly right around the outside, and I was able to tap it down in there and get them butted up, put my new snap ring in, and then my seal right on top of that, and then assemble everything back. But yeah, hopefully you don't have as much as trouble as I did. These things were shot like big time. They were really bad. If yours are still intact, man, it'll be so much easier. I caught hell. I did the other side already. I did this side here and mounted everything back together. This side wasn't as bad. I was able to get it out and back together, so just have to bolt everything back up. But yeah, it was quite a task. Okay, now that I have everything put back together, I went ahead and coated everything with Never Seas. I use marine grade anti-seize on most of it, and inside of the brake housing I just use this regular grade Never Seas name brand. That one's actually in a spray can. It works really great. Like I said, I don't use my rear brake, so I just went ahead and did a light coat all through there. I coated it inside of the housings, the ends of my shaft where it goes connected in. On the ends of my shafts and here in the front where it's splined, that's where I use this marine grade, a little bit thicker. I had trouble getting it off from there, so that's where I use that at. Put my nuts and my castle nuts back and my washers, and then I installed new cotter pins, and that's where I'm at on that right now. Take it home and bolt it up to the rear end, and then start putting it in. Getting everything reassembled. Don't forget to add your 2 O-rings, one on this side, one on this side here. I coated them in a little light coat of grease and stuck them back in there. And right now I'm just tightening everything back up. You have your 4 bolts here for this housing, shaft housing, and then you have 4 bolts here for this side of the shaft housing. And you have these were 14 millimeter, that is a 10 millimeter. Same thing here, and that's for your plastic guard, and then you have one in the center on the bottom. But that's it, coming back together. A good thing to check for while you have the rear end out is your U-joints. And as you can see, I have a lot of play in there. See that? So I just ordered them. They'll be in by Friday. I'll have that replaced. And I noticed my rear seal is leaking too, so I ordered that. So I'm gonna start pulling that apart and have it ready for Friday. So when my parts come in, I'll press in my bearings, put in my seal, and I'll be ready to go. So, you know your boy right here again. Got the rear end in. Got my new CV joint. Fuck, I don't forgot the name of them. But that chingadera right there. Had them put that new seal on the back. Everything's put back together, looking good.